back. Still tuned into Startup Central. Now, I'm sure at some point you've scheduled a document verification appointment with your bank or a fintech player where you have to take several copies of your documents. You've got ID proof, signing of documents. That's a lot of cumbersome paperwork. But things are set to change. The Reserve Bank has given the go-ahead for video KYC, which means that you can verify your documents over a video chat, and this can be done in less than a minute. All this at a time that's convenient to you. Now, this move is expected to also massively reduce the compliance costs for players in the ecosystem. My colleague Rahul Dayama caught up with Signzy founder Ankit to find out how exactly this works. Take a look.
Ankit, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us on ET Now Startup Central. Video KYC, long-standing demand from the industry, finally through. None of us really expected it to happen so soon. Could you really tell us why this is really the biggest game changer for the ecosystem? We'll come to the consumer part and how it changes our life, but why is this really a big game changer?
So thank you, Rahul, for having me and taking our views. I think it is very fundamentally important to understand that not only has the regulator given you, the consumer, an easy way to onboard and cut down operational costs for the financial industry, I think they also have principally now for the first time ever removed the need of a physical attachment to the consumer. So that means there's no need of an IPV in-person verification for the consumer. I think this is fundamentally a tectonic shift on how the regulator views customer, his identity, and how they perceive KYC. And I think not only this regulation, I think going forward, building on this, the entire banking financial industry will be able to move away from a branch-based banking because there was a need of physical leg to a more e-commerce-like industry where a great brand, great technology powerhouse is able to reach consumers to the deepest pocket in the country and hence increase their own business, but also improve the financial inclusion.
Got it. You know, the entire KYC process is supposed to be massively tedious.
Yeah.
You have to schedule appointments, ensure the person reaches you on time, have those Xerox copies ready with you and all of that.
Yeah.
All of that now seems to go away. Like this will be a massively paperless, zero physical touch because your eKYC you still had a touch point.
Correct.
So now everything is gone. So what's the cost impact considering all of this will now happen back-end driven by technology? So for a player like you or anyone operating in this space, the cost comes down to almost nil, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think there are two important cost factors that totally go away. One is the physical leg where somebody had to visit your place. And the second is now because I do not need to have these operational centers across the country, I can become much more efficient about my ops. I can centralize the technology, the manpower in a single place. So I think at two levels there will be huge cost cutting and the cost of onboarding new consumers, as you correctly said, at operational OPEX level should go down drastically.
From about 150, 200 rupees until a few years back per KYC to now almost negligible. So
I think less than 10 rupees is a good thing to say because technology and servers and all of storing the data would have a cost. But yes, I think 10 rupees and less is I think what we're looking at.
But that's still massive, right? In terms of all right. So you know what? You're happy with the cost factor really coming down for a consumer like me. It's the ease. So what changes for the consumer? Basic internet connectivity, and you're sort of ready to go. And so, how would life really change for a consumer like me?
I think as consumers, we have got extremely used to Netflix, Amazon, and these digital experiences. And there is this interesting anomaly that actually Amazon sends you a physical product in a physical truck. Banking is actually completely digital by conception. It's a digital theoretical product going bank account to bank account. So I think for the first time, consumers will experience truly digital banking, where they do not have to have paperwork, hassle, back and forth. They will truly feel e-commerce, Amazon, Netflix-like experience in banking.
That's an entire experience clearly changing. Yeah. But you know, the sense is, and correct me if I'm wrong, how UPI has clearly changed the entire nature of payments globally first in terms of how innovation has poured out of India. Is the video KYC, so to say, digital first in the banking really, at least in matured markets that we were discussing?
Yeah, I think there have been experiments on completely digital KYCs across geographies and they have been subdued to certain products or certain very small economies, I think for the first time, RBI were totally taking away the principle of in-person verification, which means that all products in this country which are under RBI can now use video KYC instead of physical, is definitely first in the world. And no other regulator till this point has taken such a strong foot forward to say digital is the way forward, and we cannot keep regulation, bottlenecking financial services as a sector.
But Ankit, I cannot not ask you to show us a demo for us to really understand how the entire process works and how effortless is it. Could you take us through the process, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think it's a very fast process and we'll get done very quickly. So as a consumer, I'll get a link to join the conference with my bank official, and I also give my consent, which of course today is very, very important. As soon as I join the call, I will be able to start seeing my ops guy. The process starts with me just simply showing my PAN card on the screen to the end user, and once I've shown my PAN card, he asks me to stay still so that he can capture my photo, and at his end he is doing a lot of checks and I'm kind of done. Of course, yeah, exactly.
Less than a minute?
Yeah, I think less than a minute, and sitting anywhere in my home. It can be 2 o'clock in the night. I've just done with a movie on Netflix, and the next thing I do is I open a bank account.
Services at your doorstep, less than a minute. That's really the future of banking and KYC going ahead. You know, one issue with this entire sharing of data, and we're discussing, we as Indians happen to have multiple Aadhaar copies with us, PAN card, even while we're traveling, because anywhere you're supposed to, and you have it ready. Data leakage, fraud is at an all-time high, considering there's so many leakages that happen in the system. All of that would also significantly get impacted, right? So would this entire video KYC help address the increasing nature of consumer fraud that's happening, financial services, banking, and all of that?
Yeah, I think one important data point again to note is that employee leakage by RBI in reports has been said to be the number one reason for fraud. Once you are able to take away the physical leg, hence take away the need of an employee to carry these documents, the entire security and privacy of the consumer is now being handled by the bank as an institution and not by the employee of the bank. So employee leakages, which was the largest aspect of fraud or privacy leakage, would, I think, go away completely. There may be new things that will come up, because this is something as an industry, as a consumer and both financial industry will see for the first time. But I'm sure RBI will take it into its stride and bring those laws. But employee leakage, which was the largest, will totally go away, and I'm sure consumers will be safer and more secure after this regulation.
All right, data is set to get more secure for people really wanting to use it. You work with the top 5-6 banks, clearly. How big an opportunity is this for players like you, startups? Lending is massive where KYC is required. The entire space of investments, mutual funds. So things will just look massively, in terms of opportunity, massive for players and startups really operating in this space.
Yeah, I think because mutual funds always had video KYC, I think we have seen some success there. Even as a startup, we do video KYC for all the top 10 AMCs you may know of. And we've seen how it has changed their business completely. They've shifted from a branch-based, physical, distributor-based model to a API-based digital model where they're plugging into all these digital ecosystem, these digital apps. I think something similar will happen for banking, where the banks will completely turn around from branch-based to a direct-to-consumer, or at least direct-to-digital ecosystem play.
Got it. The entire bit of financial inclusion, I think RBI did mention it also, the barriers are down. So anyone sitting remotely in a tier 3, tier 4 town can still avail massive financial services. We have a lot of startups already in the space. So financial inclusion would be really addressed massively at scale.
Yeah, I think internet has now gone into even the deepest pockets in the country, which has now, I think, allowed the regulator to give a regulation which is internet first, right? This would have been impossible without good internet connection. I think good work by the government and good work by the regulator, and which means that I do not need to create a branch in some pocket in Arunachal Pradesh. The guy in Arunachal Pradesh actually using his phone can work with an HDFC. I think which is massively different from how financial inclusion was thought, and this will 100% improve financial inclusion. Not only it will improve financial inclusion, it will make sure great brands are able to work with lower levels of guys. Before this, it was shifty brands, people with less credibility who are working in these remote corners. Now big brands, big financial services can work with these remote customers.
So the market is massive, right? Now anyone can be your customer remotely sitting out of anywhere. So for people in the ecosystem trying to reach out, I think just broad basis the entire consumer bandwidth.
That's completely okay.
All right. Lastly, so all you need is basic internet connectivity. What are the drawbacks really from a consumer, from an ecosystem point of view? Of course, these are work in progress, a massive step. But beyond basic internet connectivity, do you really see the spurring of Indians largely adopting it, considering, or is there a larger need for awareness also among the masses?
Yeah, I think a smartphone and internet, there are still a large number of customers who may not have a smartphone in the country. But apart from that segment, I think the rest 600 million who have a smartphone internet, I think this will completely change their life. Even for the segment where there is no internet, there is no smartphone, I think the RBI has said that the operator, that is BC, can actually use his own phone as long as the customer is in front. So I think which is also great, which means as long as a BC, a business correspondent on the ground has a smartphone, it will work. So I do think that each and every customer will be able to benefit from it, and for them it's nothing, it's just a phone and an internet.
So all it takes is 1 minute to get all of your verification done. Sure is looking easy and convenient. But with that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Startup Central. From the entire team that put the show together, thanks for watching.